Right, click the links to check out the other video links, other Odyssey, Bit Chute, Telegram, Gap TV, that kind of stuff. So I thought this was kind of interesting video because the left is setting up this binary where the evil right-wing fascist Nazi terror super bad people are the ones who are the bad guys, because Hollywood told us that they're the bad guys. I mean, it's kind of odd because it's like the same Hollywood that's got trips to Epstein's island and celebrates people like Weinstein, Woody Allen, Roman Polanski, Siegel, and who's the other guy? The fit guy, the foot guy who was like on some kids programming. Spielman or Seeker or something. It's weird, the people that Hollywood idolize and the people that they tell us are bad. Anyway, so they set up this binary with one side being the bad guys, these Proud Boy types, who has a T-shirt. In case you're not watching this, it says "Happiness is a warm gun, a good horse," but it's got what looks vaguely similar to the World War II death's head. Like I can admit it. It's like that's what it's reminded me of. But it's got a raccoon hat on it, so the whole thing's just kind of ridiculous. Like half the things that people on the right do are troll the left. Like with the OK sign, that's a symbol. Just like they said, well, we're gonna do this OK thing, and we know we control the ADL and the mentally ill people who work the ADL, SPLC, ACLU, and the mainstream media. We can literally, like, we're telling you right now, we're going to do this OK thing, and it's going to get them to get triggered over it. Like, we're telling you the plan, and this is exactly what happened, and that's exactly what happened. It's just as obvious as it sounds. So half the stuff they're doing is designed to pull strings of people who like should not be so easily string pulled. So the way they phrase everything in this article is one thing, but you're setting up this interesting binary when on one side you have the good progressive far left wing, I guess they're the communist side, the globalist side, the Marxist side, because the quote unquote fascists are the bad guys. So the good progressive left wing liberal types are teaching kids about CRT and getting put on cross-sex hormones and drag kids and having gay men come to talk to children in libraries and schools and have drag queen story hour and have children dress up as the opposite sex and dance around on stage for money. Those are the good liberal progressive people. And the evil fascist Nazis, the Proud Boys, I guess, is one of the groups allegedly involved. I mean, you think about it, really anyone can make a T-shirt and put it on, but they call it fascist regalia. It's this T-shirt with a graphic T-shirt. A graphic T-shirt is the fascist regalia. People pulling your strings and you're falling for it because you're so boys and cat ladies. So they set up this interesting full regalia to show up at the school board meeting, which they're entitled to do. Peaceful assembly is constitutionally protected activity. So the evil Proud Boys on one side, and I also will say, I'm interrupting myself more often than Joe Biden, is that if I had to guess, observing the Proud Boys over the past several years, they're making a slight shift to the right, where before they were kind of a less serious group. And I don't know, it seems like you're getting more, they're actually doing more activism rather than just like drinking beer and getting the occasional brush up with Antifa, which like that doesn't serve anyone's purposes to just like get in street fights with people. That seems to me it seems to me like that's pawn behavior where the chess master is manipulating the chessboard from afar, and it's like you're not really fighting pawns is really kind of pointless. But when they're disrupting, through peaceful assembly, these drag queen story hours, which they're legally entitled to do, to peacefully protest, that is, you're sending a better message. And I don't know if they planned this out, but inadvertently or maybe it's consciously, they set up this split where on one side the media is trying to portray these progressive teachers who are teaching kids to, we're here, we're queer, and you can be queer too, and it's a lot of fun, all this kind of stuff, and take hormones and cut your genitals off, and Jimmy's got two dads type of stuff. And so the evil fascist Proud Boys, who again, like most of the Proud Boy stuff I've seen, is like, you're saying they're fascist because they want to stop you from hurting kids, from from grooming kids. I mean, what this looks like is you're pushing sexuality on kids who are way too young for it. And listen, when it comes down to it, I look at it and I go, ultimately, if it's stuff in the school board, yeah, you can protest that for sure. And stuff in schools shouldn't be taught in schools because those are government schools, those are state actors, and those are taxpayer funded and this kind of thing. But if you get, and to be fair, the library is also state funded, so you have a right to protest there. But ultimately, it's a question of parents. Like if this is the parents of these mentally ill parents who want to do this to their kid, you get into a question of like, if that's ultimately what they want to do. Well, I guess the protest is kind of legitimately on the idea that it's on state property, which is like you have the right to protest. But I mean, really, it comes down to it. If a parent wants to cross-dress their child, is like abhorrent as it sounds to us. Well, I mean, really, then if they're doing that, it's like, well, then why didn't they do it on private property where you would have no right to protest? But it's an interesting question of how you want to run society, and this society is getting to the point of just saying we want to split apart. Anyway, so there's such a thing as being so tolerant that you just turned off your brain, and this is kind of the point where why are you introducing concepts of sex and sexuality and gender and all these kind of uh, concepts that are better suited for older children? Why are you introducing them, in a state school or a state library? Why are you having men in dresses read to little children? Or why are you having men in lingerie dance around on stage, sometimes with children dancing around on stage? I mean, like, I'm not saying you can't, I don't know, teach your kids whatever kind of belief system you want, but when you see little toddlers doing this, dancing around, like, why don't you wait? Would you, okay, flip it over. Would you have, if it was women at a strip club, and say they weren't stripping, obviously, they were just women in the lingerie, dancing around on stage, and people were throwing dollars, and you're saying you're bringing toddlers to that event. What's the difference between men in dresses with, surgery to look like women versus real women? A decade ago, it wasn't cool to bring your children to a strip club. Why would it be now? What's the difference? Oh, we're progressive. So anyway, the Proud Boys are the dressed in hate symbols, which means they had a graphic T-shirt, and they tried to intimidate a teacher, which means they had peaceful assembly. And she says that the Proud Boys targeted the teacher with hate-fueled intimidation. Now, when they say something that purposely vague, there's a reason for that. You can allege that someone committed a battery. That's a harmful or offensive touching, or someone committed an assault. It's the apprehension of a battery. It's the reasonable fear, or maybe it's subjective. It probably depends on your jurisdiction of the imminent threat of a battery. So that's what the definitions of assault and battery are in different jurisdictions. Define them differently. And I guess there's intimidation would probably be under something like coercion by threats or deception or um, blackmail or something like that. But you're making an allegation, and it's like it sounds like a crime without alleging what part of the criminal code they violated. They said hate fueled intimidation. Well, if you're alleging that they intimidated you to the extent of like threatening you with force or threatening you with something, well, you should call the police. And because you got cell phone cameras now, you could record all this stuff. But you're not alleging a crime, and you're not saying that you did call the police. You're saying that it was hate fueled intimidation, which is vague and amorphous enough so everyone can kind of nod their head and go uh huh. But then the rest of us in the audience are going, wait, what specifically were their actions? I mean, did it rise to the level? Did it meet the elements of a crime? If so, call the police. And the hate-fueled intimidation rises to the level of constitutionally protected activity, i.e., peaceful assembly on public property, which is what we're talking about. All this stuff is public property. So fascist thugs enabled. So I mean, note the hot word, which is like you have a picture of one person who's wearing a bandana and a black hat, and he's one person, one skinny white guy with a graphic T-shirt, who I'm assuming was peacefully protesting, because if he was doing anything else, the police would have arrested him. So the teacher had a pride flag. Okay, fair enough, but it's, obviously we're dealing with state schools. That's where the constitutional aid issues come up. So then now you have a constitutional argument that, well, should have the hammer and signal sickle must be allowed. The I don't know, the stars and bars, the swastika, all kinds of other symbols must be allowed if you're allowing a pride symbol. And I think you're pretty well firm constitutional, or something more on the nose would be super straight with the SS symbol. If you say that on state property, things have to be equal. So if you're allowing a display of flags, then it's usually the restrictions can't be. They have to be content neutral. There's three levels of Supreme Court scrutiny for free expression cases, and it's been a long time since I looked into this kind of stuff for speech. But usually it kind of roughly boils down to, like, if you're having clubs on a state campus, like when I was in college, this was a deal. It's like if you have buildings held open to people, then they have to be held open to everyone. So at that time, they were like, they would have done anything they could to keep Christians out of campus. But if you had it open to anyone, then Christians could check out the rooms too. Which is, I mean, schools have always been very, very anti-Christian. Anyway, a hate symbol. So it's one guy who peacefully protested, and like I said, if it wasn't peaceful protest, it would you would have had him arrested. So you call this? It's got a flag insignia with an equal two horizontal lines, the equal sign, and then a slash across it that says not equal. Which, I mean, you can interpret it any way you want. I actually don't know his specific meaning of that. And then the what do you call it? The Roman victory symbol with the, what do you call those flags? Those walnut leaves? Is that what it's called? I forget what those things are called. My point is, you've got a pride flag, which many people would consider a hate symbol, or at least a symbol of degeneracy. If you're judging by Weimar, you go back to Sodom and Gomorrah. For many people, most people around the world, actually, a pride flag would be a symbol of degeneracy. You're talking about like millions of Abrahamic followers around the world, and even billions of people around the world would consider the pride flag more offensive than this yellow flag with a black unequal symbol on it. And maybe I will interpret that to mean that people are not equal. But I mean, I really have no idea. That's how I would just interpret it, which is true. It's a true thing. Maybe it's against this push for equity, which is pretty much retarded, because different things are not equal. It's like that's just a mathematical correct statement, but that seems to trigger the left. So if a teacher's got a pride flag, and you can show this to the flag, and you explain it to the world's population, probably half of the world, billions of people, will say it's offensive. You explain this flag, this yellow flag with the unequal symbol. I guess you'd have to ask their definition of what it means, but more people are going to find the gay pride flag offensive than this symbol. But like you calling them fascists and extremists and wearing like hate-fueled intimidation or full regalia, that those are just words. It doesn't make any of this stuff true. Anyway, I thought this was interesting because the left wing, and how many, like, you only got like 100 tweets, likes for this, the 65 likes. They're doing this thing where you're saying right-wing extremism is wanting to protect children from grooming teachers who are grooming them. That's right-wing extremism. So most normal, rational people are going, okay, well, we're siding with the right-wing extremists. Oh, but they're extreme. I just told you they're extremists. But they're not the ones. Who would you trust? Who would you trust to babysit your kids for an hour? These Proud Boys, or the drag queens, the men in the lingerie? Who would you rather? I mean, like, gun to your head time. It's like, who would you trust? And when you ask people that question, it's like, yeah, 95% of them are going to say, okay, I guess I trust the Proud Boys more. because they're protecting kids, and these teachers and these drag queen story people, yeah, they're grooming kids. That's kind of what it means. So it's an interesting. It's oh, so this is political violence. See, all these words are like they're pseudo words. They almost mean things. And you go, well, violence has a definition. Are you talking about somebody committed a battery, a harmful offensive touching, or some other kind of something, some kind of violation of the criminal code? No, it's just political violence. Are you literally saying that his peaceful assembly, his constitution protected activity, is political violence when he does it, but it's not political violence when you do it? Yeah, that's what they're literally saying. That's how delusional they are. Anyway, no, you should not have a pride flag in school any more than you would have a swastika flag, a hammer and sickle flag, a satanic flag, or a super straight flag. To be fair, it's like the only flags in school should be the state flag and the Federation flag, the American flag. That's it. It's like you shouldn't foster anything, bring anything to school that's going to cause needless conflict, which clearly a pride flag would do. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys all next episode.